Our next reader this evening is Mr. Pat Rushin. Pat Rushin is out of his fucking mind. That is, according to director Terry Gilliam, a good quality for a writer. Rushin wrote the feature-length screenplay for The Zero Theorem, which Gilliam directed. He's also the author of the story collection Puzzling Through the News, and most recently, the novel The Call, which one reader described as being like waiting for Godot with high-speed internet access. The Call, in fact, is the book that inspired The Zero Theorem and was published just last month by our own Burrow Press. Rushin has published essays, screenplays, poetry, but mostly stories in a variety of literary magazines, including the North American Review, Quarterly West, Sudden Fiction, Indiana Review, the Bellway Poetry Journal, the Johns Hopkins Magazine, American Literary Review, and elsewhere. He teaches creative writing at the University of Central Florida, where he has also, twice upon a time, served as the editor of the Florida Review. Please welcome Pat Rushin.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for coming out. You know, I wish I would have written one like you. That was better than North American Review. You know. People, when they ask me what The Call is about, I'm always like, I don't know what to say. I say it's about 115 pages. It's not really a novel. It's a novellini, you know. But all I know is I say it's a weird one. It's just I don't know how else to describe it. It's a weird story that just kind of captured my imagination and wouldn't let it go. So, thanks to Ryan Rivas for keeping things weird, you know, like that. I'm going to read an excerpt, if I can find it. Lost my page. And this is in the latter part of the book, so this is what you need to know. My nameless narrator, he's nameless so far, lives in a windowless efficiency that he never leaves. He's an agoraphobic. He's waiting for a phone call that he believes will change his life in indescribably delicious ways. He's totally hairless. He refers to himself in the first person plural, we. Another character says, is that royal or plural? And he says generic. And in the course of the book, earlier than this, he's visited by three characters who try to help him receive his call, this enigmatic call. The first one is a guy named Phone Man. The second one is a woman named Troubleshooter, who's really a dominatrix, online dominatrix, and both of whom fail. They can't get him his call. So he kind of shrinks back on the couch and stares at his popcorn ceiling, just all bummed out. But before Troublemaker leaves, she promises to bring his plight to the attention of a computer whiz kid who's a legend in his own time, called Crazy Bob. And so this is where Bob comes in. Enter Bob. Okay. Our intercom buzzes. We rise. Who is it, we ask. Bob. Bob whom? That'd be Bob who, a thinly cracking voice answers. Don't be such an anal retentive grammar hound. Some chick eamed me and said you had a problem. Troubleshooter, you mean? I'm basically clueless. Feminine syntax, imperative sentences like a Gestapo officer's wet dream. That would be she. Glad we're clear. Buzz me up, Scotty. Our name isn't Scotty. I know that, Bob. Our name isn't Bob either. I know that too, Bob, but calling everybody Bob, a name coincidentally that I can remember like my own, happens to save me a lot of brain cells. And brain cells are knowledge, Bob, and knowledge is energy, and energy never dies. Ipso facto, I'm dying down here when I could be up there solving your fucking problem. Excuse my fucking French. Buzz me up, ASAP. Better put these on. We're no longer interested in your services. We say we've solved our own problem. Have we now? I doubt it. But I happen to have a little problem of my own. I rode my bicycle across town to get here, And the way I look at it, you owe me for a service call, even if you don't want the service anymore. Plus of which I got to take a wicked pee. Let me up to use your bathroom. We prefer not to. I'm going to pee on your stoop, Bartleby. I'm busting the old tinkle dance down here. No charge on that service call if you just let me up, please. There's a convenience store 2 blocks east. I'll never make it. Plus, they look at you funny unless you buy something. Even when you buy something, they still look at you funny. What is it with these funny-looking convenience store people? Buzz me up, Bob. I'm starting to dribble. We're sorry, we say. We can't. You ever hear of Kitty Genovese, Bob? Trust me, you don't want to be a tragedy occurring on your doorstep that'll make you a case study in callous disregard for a fellow human being's bursting bladder. Let me in. We release the intercom button, return to our sofa, sit. The intercom buzzes several more times, then falls silent. Then there is a sharp staccato knock at our apartment door, a louder knock followed by several kicks. We rise and unlatch all but the chain lock, peer through the open crack. It is a boy. Dressed in an untucked baggy T-shirt and low-riding jeans, he shuffles a pigeon-toed jig on the tiptoes of his sneakered feet, face a twisted mask of agony. Let me in, let me in, let me in, he cries pitifully. We let him in. Bathroom, 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 he gasps, spinning in wild, panicky circles in the center of our efficiency. He quickly locates the only other door in the apartment and slams through it. We hear the gushing impact of water on water for quite some time until it slowly dribbles to a tinkling conclusion. Woof, he says, exiting the bathroom without washing his hands. I think I did some renal damage holding it that long. He swipes a sweaty strand of ebony hair from his forehead. It joins a sleek sprawl of shoulder-length locks before flopping back down over his eyes. He pauses mid-room to eye us up and down. You okay, he says. We've felt better. I mean for me to be in the same room with. You look like a serial killer in search of a do-it-yourself project. I'm guessing you're mostly self-destructive, but reassure me. Promise me you won't hurt me. We won't hurt you, we promise. Not even my feelings, promise. We promise we will do our best to avoid hurting you or your feelings, we say. Hope your best is good enough. How did you gain entrance through the security door downstairs? So easy, I wonder why you even ask. Bob glances around our efficiency. Wow, he says, moving towards our workstation. Check out the Smithsonian exhibit. Troubleshooter said our hardware was impressive. She needs to get out more. Actually, it's state-of-the-art for a year ago, but I don't care if it's 5 minutes ago. All computers are museum pieces a week after you buy them. You can thank Micromac and their Detroit assembly line tactics for that. Always hold off on the better product till next season. That's why I'll never buy a computer. But we understood that you were supposed to be a computer wizard. I am. I don't buy them, though. I build them. He sits in our swivel chair, switches on our computer. I could fix this for you easy, he says. There's nothing wrong with our computer, we inform him. That's what they all say. Hang on a sec. We hang on several secs while Bob works his way into our registry, a place even we fear to visit, and begins a flurry of animated typing, pausing now and then to glance at the screen. The computer buzzes and whirs. There, Bob says after a time. Doubled your RAM, problem solved. Bob, I'm starved. How about ordering us a pizza? Our problem was not with our computer, we say. Oh, well, order us a pizza anyway. We must decline. Our diet dictates against all foods with perceptible flavor. How much do we owe you? Order me a pizza and we'll call it even. Triple cheese, nothing else. Which is closer, Pizza Hut or Domino's? We have no idea. Okay, try this. Which is greasier, Pizza Hut or Domino's? Once again, we haven't the faintest. Take a wild one. Domino's? Bamp, Bob says. Pizza Hut's is greasier, but Domino's is slimier. It's the sauce. They use slimy tomatoes, I'm guessing. Order Pizza Hut. You can dab off most of the grease with a paper towel. We're sorry to report that we have no phone. What's this, Bob says, poking through the shattered relics still in pieces on our countertop. He pulverized it in Chapter 1. As you can see, it is no longer in working order. The fuck, you say, Bob says. He picks up several phone shards, squints as if inspecting a precious archaeological discovery. Ball-peen hammer? That's amazing, we say. He shrugs. Let me have a screwdriver, pliers, roll of duct tape, and some wire. We fetch tools, tape, and wire, and Bob goes to work. This'll take a minute, he says, if you got something better to do than stare at me. We return to our sofa, recline our head back, continue perusing our ceiling. Oh, the patterns. Done, Bob announces after a time. He hands us our taped-together phone. You make the call, Bob. I already programmed Pizza Hut's number. Just hit memory dial. A large triple cheese pan pizza, easy on the grease. Why don't you call, we say. I don't do calls, Bob says. People are funny on the phone. Hurry it up, I got to get back to my sitter soon. Me and her have an arrangement. My parents pay her to watch me, and I pay her to let me go on service calls. That would be she and I have an arrangement, Bob. Ha, Bob cries triumphantly. I knew I could make you say I. You're pretty weirdly wired, Bob, I hope you know, but it takes all kinds. I can't believe that they still make me have a sitter. It's mortifying. I'm like, hey, I'm not a baby anymore. I'm practically 13. Bob sighs, rolls his eyes, drums his knuckles on our galley kitchen countertop. Puberty's hell. He appears to be the sort of animated, energetic, carefree, fun-loving boy we might have fathered our very own selves with one of our ex-spouses years ago when we were more able in that arena. A son to whom we might even now be pitching baseballs, tossing footballs, teaching the finer arts of entity crunching, were our genes not of the more or less non-athletic and taciturn variety, and were we not too busy waiting for our call. I'm telling you, Bob, you think you got problems, you should try living at my house. Plus, I'm supposed to be a genius and everything, which doesn't make things any easier. My dad supposedly has an IQ like 160, but you wouldn't know it to listen to him. He starts every lecture with, if you're so smart. My mom's IQ is higher than his, and she's like, listen to your father, honey. I'm smarter than both of them squared, and I got no IQ. I refused to take the test. Why? It was stupid. I wrote my own tests. All these experts are still studying it. And you're like, they'll pass it. Yeah, right. I'm telling you, Bob, much as I hate it, I'd rather be programming for Micromac again than sit through one more dinner conversation with my parents. They're like essentially a clue short of Professor Plum in the library with an Uzi, if you know what I mean. Please, Bob, I'm starving to death. Make the call, will you? Please? We make the call. Interesting life you're leading here, Bob says while we wait for delivery. What do you do for entertainment? Up until recently, we say, we spent no small amount of time crunching our entities. Bob says, settling himself at our workstation and flipping on our computer again. His legs dangled precociously short of the floor in our swivel chair. But we spend most of our time now staring at our ceiling. I hear you. No TV, I notice. Little interest, counterproductive. Sure, if you watch it in real time. Me, I record 15 to 20 hours of programming per day, but I watch it all on fast forward in like 20 or 30 minutes. I fix my DVD player so it gives me audio on fast forward. My mom makes me wear headphones. She says it sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks on acid. She used to be a hippie and she freaks easy. Burned a lot of synapses behind her. You are a curious young man, Bob, we offer. How can a boy your age know so much? Bob shrugs. He has entered, we see now, our favorites drop-down menu and is idly bringing up various flashing screens of questionable imagery. Dudes at ISB are still arguing, but the best guess consensus right now is I use 19% more on my brain than the average genius. I'm shooting for 20. ISB? Institute for the Study of Bob, he says. That's me. National Science Foundation's funding the thing. They wanted to give me a grant to join the team studying myself, but my parents said no. They think I'm way too self-absorbed anyway. Whoa, Bob gasps, stopping at the troubleshooters page. This stuff is hot. He frowns. I'm not going to stumble on any kiddie porn or anything here, am I, Bob? How did you log in without our password, we say. Give me a break. It's too easy. Bob studies the troubleshooter's latex visage. Because if there's any like kiddie porn stuff here, I'm out the door right now. I don't mind your adult porn between consenting deviants and all, but if my parents ever caught me getting involved with any pedophile links or chat lines, they'd pull the plug on my system, ground me for a year. Of course, I got an alternate backup power source they don't know about, but still, that baby love stuff is disgusting and creepy, in my opinion. No pedophilia, we say, and no real consenting adult porn except, guiltily, the site at which you've just arrived, Troubleshooter's Domain, which link she installed herself on our desktop, and we felt duty-bound to visit. This is the troubleshooter, Bob says. Bob scrunches forward in his seat, draws too deep a breath. The one who emailed me about you? Please, we say, go no further. Bob gazes at her, eyebrows raised. Wonder if she does any babysitting. He glances at us, blushes. I got this hormonal thing kicking in case you didn't notice. Voice cracking, zits popping, hair boldly growing where no hair grew before, nocturnal visits to the large economy-sized Kleenex box. Old news, I'm sure, for you. We vaguely recall, we offer. And speaking of vague recall, Bob says, I look on your networks and despair. Bob swivels back and forth in our swivel chair, sneakered feet swinging. You lied to me, Bob, he says. You still haven't received your call. How do you know about our call? Elementary, my dear Bobson. I can retrieve and print off every word you've ever keystroked on this baby. Nothing's ever really erased, Bob. Nothing's deleted. There's a world of signals out there, man, and none of them ever die. You don't believe me? Ask the Pentagon. Of course, they'd lie, but what do you think they invented this system for? So a bunch of one-handed typists could stay up late at night rubbing their eyes and yanking their crankies? We have no idea. You said it. So fill me in, Bob. I can't work without details. What kind of call are we waiting for, and who's this call supposed to be coming from? I need info. Gimme. We try our best to explain as rationally as we can the nature of the call we have been waiting for all our lives, but we find ourselves growing increasingly frustrated with our inability to express our feelings precisely. Indescribably delicious, Bob muses after we've trailed off to a less than satisfying conclusion. Special assurance of extra special status in the universal scheme of things. You surprise me, Bob says. I like that. I mean, sure, you're like several noids short of human, but I can sort of kind of relate. I mean, for instance, I don't like talking on the phone much, so I never answer it when it rings. That's what Mom, Dad, and the answering machine are for, right? But this one time, our machine got zapped by lightning, out of order at the bottom of my things to fix list, and Mumsy's at work and Pa's playing tennis with a client, and my advanced quantum philosophy tutor from the university is running late as usual, homeschooling, don't you know? And the babysitter bailed for a minute to buy an emergency box of feminine protection, blush, and I'm in the middle of this rare moment home alone when the phone rings. Well, Bob, let me tell you, I'm 99.999% positive the phone's not for me. Anybody I do business with uses email. But all of a sudden, my ears prick up and I feel like this crackhead Joneson urge to answer the phone, even though I don't want to, you know? No, it's more like this call of the wild compulsion. It's like this Pavlovian program stimulus response hierarchical salivating imperative, Bob. I'm getting the shakes just remembering it. Vision tunneling, blood pressure soaring. If I had fur on my neck, it'd be standing on end, dude. I feel like this dog we used to have before he died in a tragic accident I don't like to talk about. Lab retriever's supposed to love the water, okay? But you couldn't get him in the pool, even in the dog days of summer, because when he was just a pup, before we got him, before he was weaned even, he accidentally fell in his mother's owner's swimming pool. Nobody human around to help him, mother too preoccupied with a half dozen pups sucking her teats, I like that word, to notice the runt strayed off. The runt himself too small to climb out on his own, and so he just puppy paddled himself to exhaustion before the owner discovered him and fished him out half dead a couple hours later. Trauma induced a literal case of hydrophobia by the time we bought him. He'd drink the water, but you couldn't lead him anywhere near a pool. If you tried, even with a choke chain, he'd just hit the deck, dig in his claws, and he wouldn't budge. So one hot summer Sunday afternoon, I figure I'm going to cure him of this phobia. My dad's grilling steaks on the patio Barbie, dog slobbering around waiting for a chop to drop. I'm in the pool calling to him over and over, "Here, Bob, come in the pool, Bob. Go for a little swim, Bob." And he's like, "Duh, no thanks, Bob." My dad says, "Give it a rest, son. You'll never get him in there." And he goes in the house for another beer. That's when I make my move. I grab the tongs, pick up a sizzly steak off the fire, hold it up so the juice is dripping right onto the dog's tongue while he jumps in the air trying to grab it, and then I walk into the shallow end of the pool, holding the steak out for him to see. Tempting, huh? Dog just stares at me, head tilted in that clueless doggy way they have. "Here, Bob," I tell him. "Come in and get your steak, Bob." Well, Bob, the realization of what's really going on finally hits that dog, and I got to tell you, I got a whole new respect for the term approach avoidance syndrome that afternoon. I mean, the dog just stood there on the edge of the pool, tail curved straight up at attention, staring at me and my steak like he was paralyzed or something. His little doggy pea brain just feeding this looped message round and round the inside of his pointy little skull. Steak good, water bad. Over and over for what had to be the longest inert waking moment of his simple doggy life. Over and over, thesis and antithesis with no synthesis in sight. "Here, Bob, come on, Bob," frozen in place like a bronze doggy statue. He didn't even whine or drool, just stared at that steak I was holding just above the water. But I swear, I could sense him like subatomically vibrating the whole time, like the little quarks and leptons inside the nuclei of his atoms were spinning faster and faster and still getting nowhere. But so I watched him in frozen motion like that, me still holding the beef. "Here, Bob," through the whole 2-minute ordeal, thinking if this went on, I'd maybe be the first person in the history of the world to like spontaneously combust a dog, until my dad came out and told me to quit tormenting the poor mutt. Bob shakes his head sorrowfully. That's kind of sort of what I felt like listening to that phone ring, is why I mentioned it in the first place. Well, not exactly, I guess. I wasn't about to catch fire or anything, but 99% of me is saying, fuck it, let it ring. But it's one of those persistent calls where they let it ring past 5 rings, past 10 rings, working our way towards 20 fucking rings, Bob. And the whole time it's ringing, this little 0.0001% of me is sweating it, saying, answer, you moron. It could be important, for fuck's sake. Bob stands panting and trembling, fists clenched, knuckles white, face bloodless. He closes his eyes, takes several deep breaths to calm himself. So I guess I'm saying I can relate, Bob, he says finally. We say uncertainly. To what? To you and your call thing, Bob. What else? I mean, we're programmed to think every call could be somehow important. Why else pick up the phone? So you just took your programming a metalogical step further, okay? If all these calls you're getting are unimportant, but you're still picking up the phone, then ipso facto QED, there must be a really important call out there somewhere waiting for you to answer it. You'd be like my dog if he finally jumped in, only had deep sixed the steak where he couldn't find it. He'd be paddling all over the pool going, where's the steak, Bob? I know it's here somewhere. Isn't that kind of how you feel, Bob? Like a waterlogged, hydrophobic dog swimming around the pool of life looking for something good to eat? Well, we say as politely as we are able, not precisely. Well, Bob says sardonically, just fuck me then. Excuse my Greek. Another metaphor for life down the proverbial drain. Bob crosses his eyes, slaps his bang-strewn forehead. What a waste of brain cells. What I'm saying, I guess, is this compulsion to pick up the phone when it rings would make a lot more sense if one day you picked it up and the clouds above parted and like this chorus of angels line danced their way across the sky singing, holy, 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 please remain on the line for a very special message just for you. We can't argue with that kind of reasoning, Bob, we say. But did you ever answer the phone? Yeah, after about the zillionth ring. Fucking phone solicitor. Computer-generated voice, no less. We nod knowingly. And what of your dog, we ask, voice funerally low. You mentioned a tragic accident, we recall. Defunct, Bob says. Choked on the steak I gave him when I got him out of the pool that day. I tried the Heimlich. I tried mouth to muzzle. No go. He was dead, dead, dead. I killed the best friend a boy could ever have. Bob knuckles an incipient sniffle away, stifles a sob. I haven't had another friend since. I don't deserve one. There, we say, our heart-rending. Don't be so hard on yourself. Everyone deserves friendship. Yeah, Bob says, how many friends you got? We have had a certain number of friends in our past, we assure him. At present, we are far too busy to make new ones. Bob nods. Kids don't like to hang with me either. Children can be cruel, we say compassionately. Children can be dickheads. They make fun of your superior intelligence, no doubt. They pick their noses in awe at my intelligence, Bob. I make fun of their stupidity. Jesus, they're so incredibly dull, I can barely stand to talk to them. Got no adult friends either, since I usually intimidate adults who are used to dealing with incredibly stupid kids. They don't know how to act with me when they finally figure out that I'm smarter now than they could ever hope to be. So adults try to annoy me too, hoping I'll go away. He smiles faintly, but we like to think fondly at us, enough for us to realize for the first time that he wears braces on his teeth. I gotta admit, Bob, you're paying me way more attention than the average adult who's not being paid to pay attention to me. But let's not turn this into an afternoon children's special, Bob. Young, friendless punk genius and eccentric neighborhood codger team up for fun, friendship, and laughs. Let's get back to your problem. You're using a healthy percentage of your brain, is my guess, Bob. You ain't no genius, but you got this incredibly rare focus, this call thing of yours, not to mention this we thing, which I'll get to sooner or later, I guess. Problem is, you're focusing on the wrong point. What's the point, we say? Good question, Bob. I'll study it and let you know tomorrow. Meantime, I got to split. What about your pizza? No time. My parents will be home any minute, and if I'm not home first, they'll fire the sitter, and I'll have to train a new one. Put the pie in the fridge, Bob says on his way out the door. I'll see you for breakfast. Minutes after he's left, our intercom buzzes. We let in a laughing, athletically curvaceous, dimple-cheeked girl of 17 or 18, wearing a backwards red baseball cap on her ponytailed head. Doofusy neighborhood you live in, she tells us, her laughter weakening to a chuckle when we open our door. She hands us a warm and soggy box when we've paid her. Some kid on a 10-speed was so busy staring at me, he crashed into a line of garbage cans. She flips her cap brim forward, fluffs her mustache with both hands, perky young breasts rising. You'd think he never saw a pizza before, she says. Thank you.